First of all, who are you? Who are you? Well, the first thought that comes to mind is your resume, I suppose. This you that we talk about in our resume is the ordinary psychological awareness of everyday life, which tends to dominate our attention or our consciousness, unless you take steps to interrupt it from time to time, to deliberately move to the more refined, subtle, or spiritual level that lies beneath our ordinary psychological awareness, but in the beginning is hard to access unless you deliberately leave behind temporarily, like the 20 minutes of centering prayer that we recommend. You sort of let go of your ordinary preoccupations, evaluations, judgments, plans, bright ideas, emotional reactions, responses to different people's what they say. In other words, that level that we access through the senses and our ordinary rational apparatus is a marvelous evolutionary development, but it's not the end of the trip as far as I can see, but rather is a foundation that introduces us to a deeper kind of you, Y-O-U. And this can be brought out just by a shift of emphasis. If I say, who are you? You give me your resume, and whatever you say, when you write down, when you go to a new doctor, they want to know all about your illnesses and things, what pills you take, etc. But suppose you only you move to this level. This is the level that involves the ego and ego development and the sense of a self-identity. So it's the you that is your character, or that involves your number on the Enneagram, I suppose, but your personal history, your genetic endowment from ancestors, who knows who they were. Some don't like to talk about the earlier ones. In any case, the way to bring this out is to ask the question, who are you? Meaning, well, who really are you beyond your face and your temperament and your accomplishments and your failures and etc.? It's the question that lovers ask themselves. It's the question of you ask when you're thinking of establishing a deep friendship with someone that involves a commitment of time, energy, concern, care, and love. And so this you has elements of your ordinary psychological unconscious, but also it has this deeper element that we think of as the spirit or the soul or your dispositions or your deeper desires, what you really want in life, what you really are searching for, which basically turns out to be happiness. Happiness that is hard to identify because it is boundless. It has no limit. It's a desire of opening to all that is, but it's somewhat limited by the straitjacket of particular projects of happiness that have been imposed upon us or that we invented in our developmental years and which turned us into the who you are at this time in your life history as a character, as a personality, as a member of the family. But now most of us here are moving beyond projects in life that we have either succeeded in or failed in, that occur about midlife crisis, when most of the things we wanted to do haven't worked. And so we're disposed to think of happiness in other ways than those in which we organized our life up till now. And so this makes us a sitting duck for centering prayer, conversion, meditation, or some New Age specialty that might make you feel better. This isn't a question of feeling better. This is a question of finding oneself, whoever that is, and you beginning to wonder whether the first two yous, that is, the resume you and the ego you, are really you at all. And so the word for the ego on this level is the false self. That's a psychological term for what Paul called the old man. If you recall, the old man is bound for death. The sooner you get him impaled on a sword, the better. But it's the only self that we actually know if you've gotten beyond the resume stage. But there is a deeper you, and the question then is, who are you? And this is the mystery of relationship, and the mystery of divine relationship that we were talking about yesterday. The mystery of the fact that this deepest you is a thou, is a you in relationship to someone who loves you. And loves you not just casually or for their own benefit or what they can get out of your services, but whom you know just plain loves you for exactly who you are, including things that you don't like in yourself. So this is the relationship that God proposes to have with us in virtue of creating us in the first place. And this is the thou that begins to appear in a moment of what is classically called conversion or metanoia. It's when we're not worried about changing things anymore, but are concerned about changing ourselves. And along with this awareness goes the uncertainty that we can't change ourselves, or that we don't know where to begin, or whether it will succeed. So this is the angst, or the profound melodrama of human nature that we can't avoid. And what the world's great religions seem to be saying is, we're actually called in this I-thou relationship to become God too, because friendship and love make you equal to what you love. And so the plan of God must be, at least and seems to be in most of the scriptures emphasized, is the transformation of our consciousness of the various yous into the thou and what is beyond the thou, or the purpose of the I-thou relationship, which is unity consciousness, a kind of cosmic unity that opens us to the all of creation, all that exists. God, other people, the environment, and ourselves. And from this perspective, the thou is both nothing and everything at the same moment. It's no thing. Nothing is identified as essential to our happiness, so that we're free to be no particular thing, or to see things as just objects, but rather to see them with a certain universal subjectivity in which the I that calls us as a thou shares with us its own perspectives, understandings, nature, and very being itself. So this is what might be called the true self, that is to say, or to put it in Judeo-Christian terms, the image and likeness of God in us, which is not a separate self at all, but rather the uniqueness that God has called us to as an eternal thought that has activated in this time and space, and which has the destiny to return to its source as participant in that source. And so the beyond the true self, there is a deeper self yet. True self, it manifests God, or allows God's love to manifest itself in our uniqueness, okay, which no one else can ever quite reciprocate, except God. But the self that we really are at the deepest level is not separate from God, distinct, yes, but is actually God in us, or in Christian terms, it is us in God, and God sharing the divine life with us in the sense of infinite happiness, joy, freedom, peace, all the things that we would like to be, and which we already are, if we could only see it and accept ourselves at the deepest level as the divine, or again in Christian terms, as Christ. And this might be called Christ consciousness, that is bigger and greater than the Christian religion, and is really the Word of God made flesh, and hence also manifesting in the great spiritual teachers of all time. So God is inviting us to become God on His terms. The mistake Adam and Eve are allegedly made was to want to become God on their terms. And this is the great temptation of all human beings. What do you want? To become God is the destiny. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it would not be humility to look for some other solution or status. There's only one status: to be everything, to be God, to participate in that which is without any limit, while not losing our own uniqueness or identity in that context of oneness with God. So in this sense, perhaps it would be clearer to say with one of the great mystics, there is no me but God. That would be the peak of humility as well as transformation. And so the contemplative dimension of the gospel is is open to those four U's. And we need to be able to move back and forward among them with a certain ease in order to live in this life. But the I am of God and our thou are already united. So you can't really lose. You can only delay, postpone the process. And that's why life really gets interesting around 80.